Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today we'll Masechtas Gittin Daf Mem Gimel. We're going to begin on the bottom of Mem Beis Amud Beis. Iboilhu. So we're asked the following question: Eved shemachor rabul kanas, machor o enu machor. Let's say the original Adon sold his Eved, but not entirely, rather only to the extent that the person he sells has potential rights to kanas. So again, the original owner retains the rest of the ownership of the slave, except for the potential future kanas. So is that considered to be a mechira or not? So tiboilu ramei or tiboilu rabban. So actually could be a question and posed according to either the shita of Rabbanan or the Rameir. Now, Rameir says the person could be machta something which hasn't happened yet. So this hasn't happened yet either when it comes to this Eved and the din of Kanas. Says Rashi, V'im nogach, let's say it gets gored, Consul Ralbo Rishon de in other machta devashol ba'olam. So maybe the kanas will go to the master if the Eved gets gored. Because the only time Rabbi says that you can be machta devashol ba'olam milzik in Paris dekel diavidid asu. At least the fruits are here, right? In the future, they may not be here right now, but they're going to grow. We know that a fruit tree has that potential that this is what will end up happening. Who says this will ever happen? Who says that there'll ever be a goring? How do we know that even if there is a goring, maybe there's not going to have to be a requirement of paying kanas? Why not? It's a requirement. As we continue to Mem Gimel Amud Aleph, Dilma Maida Umifter. We know when it comes to being Maida B'kanas, you're potter. And Rashi says that if he was Maida B'Beistin, Koidan Hadas Eidim Umaida B'kanas potter. So even according to Rameir, he may hold this is such a far-fetched potential thing to happen that the din is that it will not be a good mechira. So normally they say it does not work, but maybe that's in Paris deck when it comes to fruit tree. The fruit is not here. When it comes to our case, over here, the ox is here, the person, the evidence here, so maybe that is considered to be a davar shebol olam. Question 3 as well as TB11. Because again, at least it's here. TB11 asks even more. It says Masvara the Evan Kanas Adif me Paris Dekel Indian Davarshul Oilam Masvara the Garma Paris Dekel. So you have to explain according to the other pshat is that who says that even if when it comes to Paris Dekel that you do hold that you can be Machna Davarshul, but over here it's so far removed. Maybe the animal will never gore. Maybe the guy will be Moed Magnas and Potter. So Maya, what's the din? So Omer Rav Abba Tashma, the pasuk says Vayilad Bayis. So when a pasuk says v'yilad bayis, so matam l'loimer, what is this coming to tell us? Says Rashi, v'indin achilas truma. This has to do with the ability to be able to eat truma. V'yilad beisoheim yoichel b'lachmoi. Yilad bayis ben shivchasoi. So someone who is yilad bayis is able to eat the truma. So im kinyan kasbo oichel yilad bayis l'koshikain. So if a kinyan kasef is able to eat truma, so yolad bayis l'koshkain, someone who is living in the house, certainly. Ilu kain, if it wasn't for this, you would think makin in kesef. Sheish boy shever kesef. When it comes to kesef, it has to be something which has the value oichel. Av yolad bayis sheish boy shever kesef oichel. Only if it has the value of kesef can they eat truma. Let's say you have an Eved that's really worthless. Why would he be worthless? He should be able to do stuff. So Rashi says, he has boils all over his body, and therefore he's incapable of doing anything. So maybe in that situation he won't be able to eat truma. He's allowed to eat truma, even someone like that. Mer says, when it comes to this person who's burned the house, Ben sheish bo shava kesef, ben shein bo shava kesef oichel. Even if he's not shava kesef, even if he's not even having really any monetary value because the mukashchin, you can still eat truma. So kinyan kesef sheish bo shava kesef oichel. When it comes to someone who's a kinyan kesef, so maybe only if he's worth kesef he could eat. Ein bo shava kesef, ein oichel. Whenever kinyan kaspo v'yolad beso, my yolad be'ayis. So in either situation, we say that the person is able to eat truma regardless. If you want to tell me this situation, where a person sold his eved only so that in the future, if he gets gored, that they'll be din kanas, so mi ika abda deloy mizdavin l'kanasa. Is there an eved that's not even worth selling for a pruta? So it must be that he's worth nothing, means that you're selling for the kanas, and it's not a valid mechira. So that's the whole point. So, in ika eved treifa. It's possible if you have an eved treifa, says Rashi. So first of all, so Rashi says, she'ein mishalman alav kanas, the gaver katilahu. There's no din kanas by him because he's an evet treifa. He's going to die. So therefore, because of that, he's not worth even a pruta. It says, chazi will make him kameh, but we see that he's getting up. It says, Rashi l'shar so, to serve him. Alvapi she'nachta ragloy l'malo min harkuva. Even if, let's say, his feet were amputated, nonetheless, royal l'sheris kal, he could still do light work while he's still alive, so he should still be worth the pruta. Where it says benuvel mukashchin. So we saw in Rashi a benuvel mukashchin, which is a mias. It's a very repulsive, and he's also a treifa that he's not bar kanas, and therefore maybe that's the reason why. However, in the event that you would sell someone only for the kanas, maybe it is mechira. So this is a question we don't have an answer to. Okay, fine. Iboyuhu. So now the Gemara poses a different question. So as we said, you have this person who is half a slave and half free, and he performs kedushin to a woman who is free, says Rashi. So amrinan hiskadshil chetzim mikudeshes, chetz mikudeshes le'en mikudeshes. Hachami havi kedushin alo. So now what's the din? Imtim saloimer ben Yisrael. If you have a regular Jewish person, she'amar labasi so says to a regular Jewish girl, his skadshil chatze mikudeshes, that we say that marry me with my half, so it's a kedushin, the chazil kule, because she is fit that they could be completely married. So he said half, but it could have been full because he's chazi for all. So halul chazil kule. But in this situation, because he's half an eved, so he's not fit completely. So it's not comparable to a regular situation. It says Rashi, Lodami dahasam shir b'kinyano, dehable l'kadsha l'kula. So he left over a kinyan, but he had the ability to be mekadesh completely. Avol lo shir midi. He didn't leave anything over. The koma dechazi l'mevid avad. He did as much as he was able to do. He was able to marry half of him to her. So maybe that's the reason why it doesn't work. So the Gemara says like this. The chazil kule, hol chazil kule, and this person is not fit to be able to be completely married because he's half a slave. So since he's half a slave, it's not comparable to a person who says, marry half of me. So marry half of me, he could have said all. But over here, he couldn't say all. So maybe it will not work. The imtim saloimer, if you want to tell me that a ben Yisrael hamakadish chatzi isha. When it comes to a ben Yisrael who is makadish half of a woman, so that not the first case was he was mekadesh half of himself. Here he wants to be mekadesh half of a woman, and mukadeshes, in that situation, that's not a kedushin. The shir b'kinyanoi, because he left over some of her for a kinyan. V'ha'eved lo shir b'kinyano. But in this situation, where he did not leave over anything, so maybe it will work. So Maya, what's the din? So Tashma, so the Gemara says like this. Hameis misha chetziv eved v'chetziv ben chayrin. Nois and chatzi knas l'rabo. So let's say you have this person who was a half eved. Because he's a half eved, when he was killed, so you have to give half of the knas to the master. Because the master owned half of him. However, chatzi kaifer Yarshav. The other half will go to this person's heirs because he is half free. Now, v'iyamrit kedusha lav kedushin. If you want to tell me that if this person who is half slave, half free, that's not considered to be a valid kedushin, so Yorshim Manole. So when do we talk about Yorshim? It must be a valid kedushin, and now he has Yorshim. We were talking about Kishasu Treifa. We're talking about a situation where they were made into a treifa. Says Rashi, Dahabli Kaman de Katle, it's like he died. Yoiv Lenafshe. So my Yorsha Lenafshe. So it means goes to the Yorshim, they get Lenafshe. He gets it himself. There's two issues with that statement. Chada, the Yorshim Katani. It doesn't say that Yorshim means that he gets it himself. It says the Yorshim get it. Obviously, that's not the situation. The Od Koiferhu, the Emerish Shlokish Koifer in Mishtalim El Achamisa. We only give Koifer after the person died. So how do we understand this case? El Amarava Royally Tol Ve'in Loi. We're talking about a situation where he's fit to take, says Rashi, the Palga Labar Knasahu, because then you only are half, so that's not considered to be Knas. El Bar Koifer. The Ainlo, he's fit to take, but he doesn't. Shahari Mace, because he died. The Yarshim Ainlo Shiigboy. And the Yarshim do not have to collect. V'zeh Mazik Zakab Amashib Yadai. Half of it goes to the master. The Chatzi Kaifer, the other half, royal in us in the Yarshav. It would be fit that the Yarshim would get it. Im Hoyul Yarshim. If he did have Yarshim, but maybe in this case he actually does not. Amar Rava. Okay, let's hold off on that. So let's look at question 3b. Mahasvara. What is the logic? She'oyel kedushi mishachetziv shiv chetzi bas chayrin, that it should work. Afal gav the mekadosh chatzi isha lost at klum. When it comes to marrying half a woman, it's nothing. The answer is because when it came to a woman, you're a shayr b'kinyano. You left something over. Here, you're not shayr b'kinyano. Question 4. Hemis mishachetziv v'chatzi kaiful yarshav. So heichem shkachas la yarshin. How do we find that yarshin to someone who is half an eved? If he doesn't have the ability to do kedushin, so what exactly is this case? Your answer is kishinasu treifa, either that he was a treifa, there's no din kedushin, there's no kanas. Oh, yarshav hainu royal yarshav, he's fit to Yerusha v'einlo, but he just doesn't have any. Okay, weiter. Omarava kishem hamakadosh chatzi isha and mekadeshes. Just like if a person marries half of a woman, it doesn't work. So too, when it comes to a woman who is half a shivcha, half free, if you're a mekadosh her, that also doesn't work. So Darsh Rabbi Barav Huna Kashem Sham Hamakdish Sham Mekadosh Chati Isha and Mekadesh. It's just like if you're mekadosh half a woman, doesn't work. Same thing. So Midami, how can you compare the two? Hasam Shir B'Kinyano, Hachalo Shir B'Kinyano. I can understand when it comes to the case of kedushin that it doesn't work because you're shir b'kinyano. There was something left over, but over here you're mekadosh every aspect of her, which is the half of her being free. So Hadar Oikum Rabos, afterwards he established Rabbi Bar Rav Huna a Moira Levadarish. He made the following drasha based on the pasuk in Yeshaya. The stumbling block which is under your hand. Ein adam oimed al divrei Torah el imkein nechshel behen, which means that a person is only oimed on Torah when they stumble on it. So apal pi she'omer, hold off on that. So look at Rashi. Komer kach hiskel hadrashim. The Kosovo it says machashel hazayis tachas yodecha, that this stumbling block should be under your hands. But anshi Yerushalayim shepaska Torah mehem, that they stopped learning Torah. Vayishol machaverim, they started asking their friends simulacha Katzim tialanu regarding this garment. V'machashel hazayis tachas yadecha kloimer devarim hamachusim kasimla, which is a Gemara in Shabbos also, matters which are usually hidden. Shiataboki bahen emerlanu, but he had katzin V'amachashel hazoyis divrei Torah. Shein adam oimed al mitasan ad sheyachashel behem l'hoyres tois. That a person only really reaches the proper conclusions once they make mistakes. So he says, this is a nice way of saying, you know what, I stumbled and I made a mistake and I need to retract because you're right. It should not be the same thing. Madoch, when it comes to the woman, Bas Yisrael, so I can understand it's not a kedushin because you were Shiro Bomidi. But over here, you did. We say that Ein Lo Shir became Yanai. So maybe that taka would work. You're right, because my time, because Hasam Shir Kinyanai. When it comes to the regular woman, you didn't marry everything you could have. Here you did as much as you could, so maybe it does work. Like it doesn't work by a woman, naturally it does not work. The whispers to you and says, what is an example of a woman who is a shivcha charufa? This is this woman who is in this half situation. Hamorasal Eved Ivri. And she was married to an Eved Ivri, and you took this woman, Alma Bas Itur Sehi. It obviously shows it is a good kedushin. The fact that we're saying that what is the situation of a shivcha charufa that you have to bring a carbon is talking about a specific situation where this woman is only half free, half a slave, and yet we do call it an erison. So we see that you are able to do kedushin with her. So if someone whispers, Amrlo Klachetz or Bishmuel, you should go out toward him. Shu'aymer b'shivcha kanainis ha'amorasal eved ivri. We're talking about specifically case of a shivcha kananis who did erison to an eved ivri. So that's what we're referring to. Says Rashi. Di'aymer. Rashi says v'hiftal and ifdasim the shav charufa is paduya ben paduya chetzer shivcha chetzer aschayim. She's free, not free. Fine. So we said that Klachetz or Bishmuel, the Omer Hasam, the Retar Kolashim the Adam. It's talking about the way the Torah speaks. Shivcha Kananis Shaloniftis Klal Mishdoikro. We're talking about a Shivcha Kananis who is not redeemed at all. We're not talking about a woman who's half free. No. If she was half free, maybe you would have a point. But we're saying it's not a good kedushin in there. So why is it a good kedushin? Why is it a kedushin? Because she's completely a slave, right? She's not redeemed, so right. No, it's not that she's redeemed partially. She's totally not redeemed, and she's a regular shivcha kananis. So that's the reason why it works. But shivcha kananis bas itur sehi. But a shivcha kananis is someone that we do kedushin. Elamai yisrael we're going to say my moresas muchedes. It just means she's designated. So hakanami my moresa muchedes. Amar Chisda chetzer shel chetzer bas chayrin she's kan shel ruvain. Let's say you have this woman who's half and half, and the kedusha was done to Ruvain, so she's Ruvain's engaged woman, and then vinish tachara, and then she becomes totally freed. B'chazra v'niskad shel Shimon. Then Ruvain's brother does kedushin. So what ended up happening? Ruvain married a woman who was half and half, and then she became completely freed. And then Shimon married maybe the other half. Umeisu shnehem, and then Reuben and Shimon both die. So Misyavem es Levi. The din is because Mamanav Shach, they're either married. She's either married to Reuben or Levi. So therefore, she could do, and they both died. So she could do Yibum to Levi as we continue Mem Gimel and Beis. The Ein Ani Kariba Esha Shnei Mesim. We don't say that this is the case of a woman of two men, Manav Shach. We don't say this. Says Rashi. We don't say such a thing because it quotes the Gemara in Yevamos that says as follows: Gimel Achin, if you have three brothers, Nisuin Gimel Nashim Nachriyos, three brothers who married three separate women, they're not related. Umeis Echemehen, and let's say Reuven dies. The Asaba Hasheni Maimer Umeis, and then Shimon, the other brother, did Maimer, which is a kedushin for a woman who's a Yavama, and then Shimon dies. So now the question is, what's the deal with Levi? So the din is that chalitza can now only be done. So only time that Levi could do yibum is if there's only one zika. But in this situation, it would be Reuben and Shimon are linked. She's linked to both of them. Because Shimon did Maimer, that didn't remove her from the original zika to her to Reuven, Kula umiksasa chola hazika siba masheni. But she's also somewhat connected to Shimon. So that's the case over there of two batim, that Levi would not do yibam. But in our case, where Reuven did kedushin with a woman who's half free, and then after she got freed, Shimon marries, and they both die. Lo zika shnayim Allah. By this eved, we don't say it's two. The chad minayu kedushin gemurin. One of them is definitely a good kedushin. Of idach lo klom. The other one's nothing. Umiyu mishum pelugta de amaroi del el masafkalan. We're just unsure. Chad minayu have a kedushin. Was she really kedushin the first one or the second? Because we don't know if Reuven can actually do that kedushin to someone who's half and half. The hash the mesu who they both died. Misya vemis Levi mamanavshach. She can now marry Levi mamanavshach. Says the Gemara. Ve'ein ani karibo yesha shnei mesim because mamanavshach. I kedushin the Reuven kedushin the Shimon lav kedushin. If the first one is good, the second one's not. Be kedushin the Shimon kedushin. Then kedushin the Reuven lav kedushin. The second one is good. Then the first one's good. Okay, Itmar. I think there's a question here. Yeah. Question TA 11. Let's get this one through. Chetzi shivcha v'chetzi baschayim sheskasha Reuven nishtachor ma din l'achar afterwards. So the answer is, here it says plukta. So plukta b'gemara I gamri kedushin v'havi eshes ish o poklei v'havi panuya. Okay. I thought this was going to be that, but I guess let's keep going. Okay, so she can do yibums. Imar chetzi shev chetzi bas chayrin. I think it's this case that we're going to be talking about. So she was half free, half a slave, and she does kedushin l'ruvein, and then v'nishtachor, and then she becomes free. B'chaz v'nishtkach l'shim, which is the case that we said before, that the brother, right? Which, but actually in this case was Shimon who is not the brother. Rav Yosef Bar Chama Yim Rav Nachman Pocket Kedusha Rishon. That removes the first kedushin, says Rashi. Afiluman Diarmer Mikudashes, even the one who says that if you marry a woman who is half free and half a slave, that's a good kedushin. Ba Hishchur, once she became free completely, that removes her, and therefore now she can marry the second guy. Shahari Mishtane Gufa, her body changed. She's no longer half free, she's completely free. The Havilah Katan Shenoilad, she's just like a newborn child, and therefore the din is that she's now married to the second one. Now that's according to Rav Nachman. Rav Zera Aim Rav Nachman Gamru Kedusha Rishon. No, he says that the first kedushin is completed. The fact that she was freed, now she is completely married to him, and she's like an Ashes Ish. And therefore, certainly the second guy, Shimon, cannot marry her. Okay. Now the Gemara says this. It makes more sense to say, like I say, that we should say that she's married to the first guy. That once she did Kedushin with Reuven, and then she became completely free, so that becoming free makes her completely now his wife. Lo yumsu, they will not die. Ki lo chupasa, ha chupsa yumsu. So it's totally on being freed. It says Rashi ki lo chupsha, because she was not freed. Lo achar kedushin, ha chupsha, if she was free. Lo basar ha yumsa dahavi lo eshes ish kamura. Then if she would be taken and she would be with another man, that's mamash ish. So it shows that she actually is connected to the first man. Okay. So that's against a machlokas, which is what we see here. He says over here, so that's exactly what this question is. Hard question. TA11, but that's where it's found. TA11. and fine. So it's a machlokus whether Paku Kedushi Rishon or Gomru Kedushi Rishon. Okay, therefore she's either a Panuya or an Eshasish. Vaita. So the Gemara says like this. Armle Abaya, Latana de Bay Rabbi Shmuel de Yom Rabbi Shivcha Kananis, Samaresis Eved Ivri. If we're talking about a Shivcha Kananis, completely Shivcha Kananis, and she got engaged to an Eved Ivri, so Hachinami Dechi Chubsha Yumsu. So it should be also when she's freed, that din should be the same. Says Rashi, HaChubsha Basar Erison. This is after the Erison, Yumsu, V'chi Kedushin Rishon Klum Hoyu. Elomaisach Meimar Shechubsha V'chaz Niskadsha. That she got remarried. So Hachinami Shechubsha V'chaz Niskadsha. Amar Huda Bar Katina, Amar Rav Yitzchak. Masabi Shachas was a story Shechetziv Shiva V'chatzia Bas Chayrin, this type of a woman who was half and half. The kafu as Rabba Yasa Bas Chayrin. So we forced the master to make her completely free. Come on. Rav Yochanan ben Broika. The Omer al Shneim hu Omer. On both of them it says Yivarach Leisam Alkim v'Yem v'Goymer. Puravu umil v'Goymer. Rav Nachman Yitzchak lo minhag hefker nogba. That we don't be noig minhag hefker. Says Rashi Beznus. The lo hais miyuchedes adam v'lo haisa mishameres atzma. Okay. Fine. All right. Weiter. See the next Mishnah. Mastis. Hamaycher Avdallah Ovid Kachavim. If a person sells his slave to an Eved, to an Ovid Kachavim, to a non-Jew or idol worshipper, which is a big problem. Or Chutzaretz, let's say you live in Israel and you sell him outside to Chutzaretz, Yotzbed Chayim. There's a Kanas of the Chachamim, since he's losing out on doing mitzvos, either by going to an Ovid Kachavim, or the fact that he now has to go to Chutzaretz where there's not the same amount of mitzvos, so therefore we Kanas the Rav, and he goes free. This was discussed also at the beginning of this Masechta regarding other locations like Surya, what the din is. Tanaban. So this is Gemara. Hamoicher Abdul Kachavim Yatzal Cheres. So he goes free. However, Sarach gets Shichr, Maraba Rishon. You do need to produce a star, emancipation proclamation for this guy. But when do we say this? Shaloi kasav of ono, if there was no star written on this guy. Of a kasav of ono, but if there was a star, zer shichruhu, that is his freedom. So my ono, some Rav Sheshes, the kasav you wrote, hachi, you wrote the following. If you run away from me, ein li esek b'cha, they'll have nothing to do with you. And therefore that would be sufficient, and they wouldn't need to do anything else. Tanaban. Let's say the Adon, the master, borrows money and gives the Eved to the Akom as a mashka. So again, the Adon is borrowing money from an Ovid Kachavim, and the Adon gives, not that he sells him to the Ovid Kachavim, but just as a mashka. Kivan she'asalo Ovid Kachavim nimuso yotzal cheros. As soon as nimusu happens, then he goes free. So my nimusu, so what does that mean? So I'm Rav Huda Bar Yehuda Nashki. What does that mean? It says Rashi, Chaisim, seal. Simon Abdos Shetaylan Avadim B'Savarehem. That they put something on his neck to show that, in fact, he is the owner, and this is my slave. So as soon as that happens, that is enough to be Yotzal Cheres. Even though he didn't sell him, but he was just as a mashka. So Meisiv Rav Sheshis, he has the following question. It says, Ha'arisin v'ha'charichus v'arise bati avos, all these different individuals, like sharecroppers, those who are an aris, again, sharecropper for an akum, in which you get half, a third, or a fourth. Chachirus is renting a field. Arisi bati avos, Rashi says, Kolimer arisus kavua va'omedes mi avos, it was already set from your fathers. Shay avoisav shay yisrael arisin bekarka zel avoisav shal chachavim zeh. So this was like almost a family business, if you will, that my father was the sharecropper, now I am. Va'oivid kachavim, and then let's say you have an oivid kachavim. Shim Mishkain Sadei Yisrael, he gave a field to the Israel, because here the Israel is the malva, is the lender, and the Ovi Kachavim is the lova. So the Ovi Kachavim gave a field as collateral to the Israel. Even though he made nimuso, which again we say some type of a seal, paturim and a meiser. He's still going to be put from meiser. He doesn't have to pay meiser. If a nashki is referring, just push it, is talking about some type of a seal on an eved, we're talking about a field. So what does that mean? This has nothing to do with a field. This is something which is specifically branded on an eved, not on a field. So obviously the word nashki cannot be referring to what we thought it did. So the nashki sade bas nashki el amrav sheish zman kasha zman lo kasha. She says, so there's a kasha zman. Why? Says Rashi, gabi eved chashil mechira. When it comes to an eved, it's considered to be a sale, and therefore he goes free. However, when it comes to a field, it's not considered to be a field. It's not considered anything. So where it says zman lo kasha, the mata zimne, the lo mata zimne. It's all totally if, for example, when it came to the eved, it reached its time. Fine. However, when it came to the field, it did not reach the time. Okay. So basically, what it's saying is that if the loan was due, so even though it was a mashkon, so therefore, since we're dealing with the eved, so the din is that he's not like a mashkon anymore. It's like part of collections, and therefore that's why he goes free. Okay. So we're talking about an eved. So if he's now a member of the Ovi Kachavim family, so why do you need to mention all this? It hasn't reached the time yet. One is when you actually sold the guf of the eved. So that is where it's more problematic, and therefore because that's a real mechira, so therefore he goes free. Says Rashi, Hal gufi gavi eved, umi achshav hayim shtabed boy. The kivan de zilzal b'tekanta de rabbanan de asalim chor eved le'evchavim, not to sell him to an evchavim. Kansuhu, there's a penalty. B'yafal gav de lomat de zimne, even though it hasn't even reached the time. So it's not that he's really being even sold yet, right? Because all this is a mashkon, but maybe he will end up paying him back, and therefore he'll end up going. The eved will go back to the Israel. So you know, the din is it's a kanas. It says Rashi v'gabi sada, when it comes to a field, the kavu lo yizman leperos, there's a set time for the fruits. Akshav lo toichel peros, now don't eat the fruit. V'im lo epro lecha loyom ploni achel peros ad shefer ma'ischa. Hilka chafil mat zimni la mecharihi. So he never said, I'll sell the field. Only when the time comes, you can eat peros, but the field was never in play to be given over. So therefore, because of that, that's the reason why the field was obviously not a mechira, because we're only dealing with peros. That's the second answer. Then we continue to Mem Dal Manal. V'imois ema b'sheloiva almanas l'mashkanai v'loi mashkanai. The Jew never yet took the peros from the field, even though the time has come. He really should have been able to collect those fruits. Still, he's potter from meisers, since the Israel never took it. But you can't even give the akum the opportunity to take the slave. So kanas, even if he didn't get taken yet, so therefore it would be a mechira. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see maybe a couple questions. Question 5. Im kanaso adon shiatz abdul cheres bo ifanim halalu. Will he go free in the following cases? So I'm not sure if we've done all this. Let's see the first one. Gavu akam b'chayvay, to collect from his chayv, li'atzal cheres. Machal shashim, we didn't do. Machal ger taisha, machal mumar. Okay, we didn't really do this. Okay, let's see if there's any more questions. Surya, we'll get to that again. Tomorrow's daf. So we have over here, what is the case of a shivcha charuf is chayim asham? So it's either we're talking about a shivcha kanainis, or a half and half, right? And who's with a engaged to an Eved Ivri. So the fact that it's engaged shows it's a Kedushin, right? So he said, no, maybe we're talking about a Shilchananis. She's completely not Jewish, still a Shilchananis, and married to an Eved Ivri. But again, maybe in the case of half and half, it may not be a Kedushin. Adkan.